Hi, my name is John Tisbury, and in this video we're going to run through the equipment I use to record my YouTube videos. So the camera gear, the lighting gear and the sound gear. Let's run the intro and I'll see you on the other side. So I'm going to take you through the equipment I use to record my YouTube videos, what camera equipment I use, what the setup is, what audio equipment I use, and also what lighting I use and how I set the lights up. So it's a fairly full-blown sort of step through that equipment. I'm not covering at this stage how I put it into post-production and what I do with it afterwards. We'll cover that on another video. This is purely about the actual capture at the time and some of the limitations and some of the problems I currently have. A number of people have asked me what I use and why I particularly use a setup, so it'll be useful to answer those questions. But I also think it'll be useful to be able to look back in sort of 12 months time and look at what's changed, if anything, on the equipment I use and the reasons why I swapped to different equipment. So it's a moment in time, if you like, as well for me. In terms of the cameras, I have two. You've probably noticed I flick between the two camera points. They are Nikon D810s, so that's a full frame sensor. They are running at 1080p at 24 frames per second. Other camera settings, they're ISO 400, f5.6 and a 50th of a second shutter speed. In terms of lenses, I've got two different lenses. So on this camera that I'm pointing at now, there is a 50mm T1.5 lens. It's a Samyang lens, manual focus, very, very sharp. It's a really nice lens. Only just got it actually because I was using Nikon prime lenses before, which were great, but I wanted something that had the racking for focus already built into the lens rather than having to put a fiddly little adapter on that you do when you're using the old type lenses that don't have that, or the non-video lens. So it's a proper video lens. So that's the 50. On this camera there's a same manufacturer and this is an 85mm lens. Again, T1.5 as maximum aperture. On both lenses we've also got follow focus. They are manual, so I have to sort of set everything up beforehand and make sure that they are in focus on me before I start. And the follow focus is really useful to get that fine-tuned adjustment and then to be able to lock it off once it's been set up. On this one of the cameras also I have an EVF, electronic viewfinder, which is turned around so it can face me, so I can see myself in terms of framing and my composition. That's a Zacuto product, and that's supported by a Zacuto flexible arm, which again, another really good bit of kit. And that's sitting on a Zacuto frame as well, a quick release frame, which I'll show you all in a minute on some cutaways. So that's the key bits on the cameras. Audio on the cameras, both cameras have got clip-on Sennheiser shotgun microphones, and I use that audio just to help with syncing in post-production. Because I'm using two cameras and separate audio, which I'll cover in a minute. I end up with three sources coming in, a separate audio and then the two camera tracks. So doing multicam editing with Final Cut Pro, it's a lot easier if you've got audio on your video track for syncing, for auto syncing. So that's what I use those for, none other than that basically. Unless I mess up on my audio, which I'm capturing externally, then I can use the camera audio if I need to as a last resort, but generally I don't use it. So both on video Manfrotto tripods and also video heads. The heads are the 501 HDV video heads, and they work great. So I think that's it on the camera gear. Nothing else to tell you. I'm just looking to see if there's anything that I've missed, but I think I've got everything there. Let's move on to the lights then. So lighting wise, I typically do a 3-point lighting setup, you know, very traditional lighting setup for recording or videoing interviews and things like that. On this side, this is my main light, my key light. It's an LED light, a manufacturer called IKAN, I-K-A-N. It's 1,000, which basically means it's got 1,000 LEDs, no more than that. It's balanced for daylight, 6,500 Kelvin. It's very accurate as well. It's a good quality LED head. So that's on full. On this side is my fill light, and that is again another 1,000 IKAN, and that's on just over half power, so not quite a 2-to-1 ratio. And then behind me I've got a kicker light, which is another IKAN. This is a smaller one, it's the 500, which is probably on about half power again, just to give a bit of a kick down the side of my face and across my back and shoulders. So that's the lighting setup. And then on to audio. So I'm looking up because I can see, but you hopefully can't see. The shotgun mic just out of shot is an Audio Technica model AT897. And that runs through into a Zoom H4n digital recorder. But I do find it difficult to monitor the levels. So in between the microphone and the Zoom, I have a sound device pre-mixer, which allows me to fine tune the audio levels if I need to on the hoof. There's LED bars which allow me to monitor the audio and make sure I'm not peaking out or recording it too softly. The last thing to cover is how I take my B-roll footage. A lot of the time I'll use one of the 810s on a Manfrotto tripod. And this is a slightly different tripod because it's got 3 feet at the bottom and a swivel, so it can move and reticulate around, and it gives me a great amount of freedom, so I can zoom in and it gives me a nice smooth arc without having to worry about lots of shake and jitter as I move around. So I think that's it. I'm just running down my list here, make sure I haven't forgotten anything. So that's the equipment I use. It is, some of the drawbacks here are that it's all manual focus, so that limits what I can do. I'd love to be able to do the sort of hold and move around, but the current equipment I've got doesn't allow me to autofocus. Although I've got cameras, I've got, like here is a Nikon D810 300 or 5300 or 5300, however you want it, and that's nice because it's got a flip out screen, and it's got a 1755 a DX lens because there's a small crop sensor on this particular camera, but the autofocus on it is rubbish, I think would be the best way of saying it. It hunts all the time. It's really unusable unless you like sort of out of focus YouTube videos. Don't think they're that popular, so I've played with it, but I haven't been able to make it work for me. Certainly indoors, it might work better outdoors where there's more light, but indoors it certainly doesn't work. Even with this lighting setup, it hunts, even at 2.8 on the lens. So I'm looking at alternatives in terms of what I can do, so that's probably a piece of equipment that I'll be buying. I've been looking at the Canon 6D Mark II with its autofocus. The Canon seems much better in terms of its autofocus options. So it's a tough one because I've got some great lenses for Nikon and I don't want to ditch my Nikon, but Nikon can't match it in terms of autofocus. And future proofing, I'd like to go 4K, so that also rules out the 6D. So I'll probably just hang about for a bit and wait to see what comes along in the next release of gear from either Nikon or from Canon or whomever. Anyway, me rambling a bit there, so I hope you found that useful in terms of understanding what I use to be able to shoot and produce my videos. As I said earlier, I will then go on to the next stage, which is the workflow in terms of what I do with the footage, how I import it, how I store it, and then how I edit it. I'll take you through the whole end-to-end process for those that are interested. So there you go, that's me done. All right, hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, then please subscribe. There's a button just appearing down below me now. And remember to click the notification icon so you can be notified of new updates as and when they appear. Okay, take care. See ya. Bye.